On the debate tonight, Jet Airways crisis worsens. Top 4 executives of the troubled airline have resigned with immediate effect.
4 top people from the management, including the Chief Executive Officer Vinay Dubey, put down their papers yesterday, which is on Tuesday, further leaving the condition of Jet Airways into a crisis. Four of these top people include the CEO Vinay Dubey himself, their Chief Company Secretary, their Deputy Chief Executive Officer, and also their Chief Financial Officer.
This amid protests by over 16,000 Jet Airways employees who are left in the lurch from the day Jet Airways closed its doors, shutting down all operations on the 17th of April. The first round of bidding for the now grounded airline ended with the UAE's Etihad Airlines emerging as the sole bidder. But the SBI is still assessing if Etihad can be given Jet Airways because of the financial condition put forward by Etihad. The airways declined to raise its stake beyond the current 24%. Now, the SBI has met Darwin Group to discuss its unsolicited bid for the debt-ridden Jet Airways.
We are looking forward to instigate almost all who have gone up, at least to the top management. Let's hope, let's be positive. We are no way negative about that. If that is done, we would also pay their dues.
This is presently the corridor, the first floor of H wing of Ansa Industrial Estate in Andheri, where they operate from, where their head office is. When we went inside, we saw that there was a couple of staff that was working inside, but their office looked to be quite new.
As the Jet Airways revival plan continues to be in a lurch, hopes of 16,000 employees are fading away. Founder and ex-chairman of Jet Airways, Naresh Goyal, who quit the airways just before the jet bubble burst, is currently chilling in Mumbai. 5 weeks after the Jet employees' complaint, no FIR has been filed yet. Mirror now asks, why are there no investigations on why Jet Airways failed? Who is shielding Naresh Goyal? Let's debate.
All right, so let's take a look at this evidence right now. 5 weeks ago, the employees of Jet Airways went to the police station and attempted to file a complaint against Naresh Goyal for not paying their salaries and against Jet Airways for not paying their salaries. No FIR has been registered, although Mr. Goyal did come to Mumbai to vote and was seen walking to the polling booth. He voted. He's now in his home in Pedder Road, from what we understand. No investigation, no FIR, nobody is looking into the books. On the other hand, there is now this new company called Darwin Group. Now, Darwin Group has said that they will put in, and they're prepared to put in 14,000 crore rupees and to completely save Jet Airways and pay all of their employees. So my colleague Neha actually went to the address of this Darwin Group of companies, and the visual is on your screen. She found that it was one room inside of an industrial complex in Andheri East, and there was no evidence really of an organization that had 14,000 crore rupees spare to buy up a commercial airline. Some of this is very worrying. Why hasn't there been an investigation? Why hasn't anyone filed a complaint? Why isn't the police looking into this? Why isn't the government showing any interest? Remember, the 9,000 crore rupees we're talking about is only money that's owed to lenders. There's the Airports Authority of India that hasn't been paid. There are there's the Indian Oil and the other people who've given them fuel who haven't been paid. And of course, and most importantly, there are the employees who haven't been paid. To make matters worse, the CEO, the CFO and the head of HR have all now quit yesterday, leaving this organization headless and these employees nobody to look to. On the show with me, Abhishek Mishra, leader of the BJP, Parvez, leader with the BJP. Parvez Dabania is a former director of Kingfisher who understands the aviation industry. Vivek Kaul is a senior journalist. Sriram Khanna, founder of the Consumer Voice, and Harshvardhan is an aviation expert. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the show. Vivek, have you seen an instance like this in the past where things are just going from bad to worse, but nobody in government is showing any interest?
Yeah, I mean, the last time we discussed this, I said that it's easier to sell a functional airline than a non-functional one. And the reason I said this is now very obvious, in hindsight. And I mean, we just go back to the point where the bankers decided to sort of get into the mess, and then they sort of for some weird reason decided they are in enough of a mess and they don't want to get into any further mess. So the mess has become messier.
Is it surprising that there has been absolutely no legal intervention at all? The police has not registered the case, and the EOW is not beginning to look into it. None of the agencies are looking into the books of this company.
Yeah, I think, that is a function of the fact that the elections are on, and everyone's just waiting for the next government to come in. Nobody really wants to make a big decision right now.
But what's likely to happen before the next government comes in? Because, from the time this election began and we're not done, this airline has gone from, it's gone to nearly nothing at this point.
No, I think there is nothing much left. I think this whole thing, this Darwin group seems like not even a front. I think it's just some guy who woke up and thought of doing something stupid. There's no capacity. I don't think these kind of people have the capacity of turning around an airline. Look at the infrastructure. I saw the site. Look completely vague and just done up, no infrastructure, nothing. I think things have gone bad to worse. I think the main top people, the good pilots, good engineers have already been absorbed by the companies.
Yes.
Most of the aircrafts are gone. I saw the list of the slots that are already allotted. So like I said last time, what is there to buy? Who's going to come forward to buy? I'm not too sure this Hinduja story is really true, because I don't think there's anything left to buy. I think the pie of the slots and the parking lots has been shared among the other airlines.
Yes.
And I think Jet has been cut into little pieces and taken over by the airlines. There's nothing left to buy. And I think even this thing is shocking that 4 people resigned. The guy, the CEO, was the main spokesman, and he was saying, I'm going to do this and do that. And he was thinking he was going to fight till the end of the day. He sounded like... Now, he's also left, so I think it's completely headless. Naresh Goyal is off the hook, and I'm still not clear, and I was talking to Vic, that what has happened to the equity? Has the loan been converted to equity or not? What does SBI have, a loan document or an equity document? What is it? And now I think, how is the money going to be recovered? Who's going to recover the money?
So here's the question. Did Naresh Goyal sign any personal guarantees?
Nobody's answering. When I signed an RTI to the bank, they just returned it. They're saying, we can't answer this question. Nobody seems to know if the government went through such a large debacle in, say, about 6-7 years ago. Kingfisher closed down in 2011, and same situation occurred. Same major 2 banks were the State Bank of India and PNB. Did they take any precautions? Did they get him to sign any guarantees? Did they mortgage his personal assets? See, again, like I said last time, I'm not holding a brief for Vijay Mallya, but they almost bankrupted him in every way. Nothing has happened similar in Naresh Goyal's case. Nothing seems to be moving. Nobody seems to be saying anything.
There is obviously a conversation
the bank
to be
has
had.
to answer certain questions.
There's a conversation to be had of whether or not the money was lost to illegal activities of any sort. But we'll never know unless there's an investigation.
There has to be an investigation.
If you look at the books of account, the general perception is that Jet went overboard with debt. And they had to pay the cost for it. But that's really not true. I mean, I just looked at the numbers some time back. And the interest on debt for the last 5 years is just 4.1% of their total expenditure.
Which is not a lot.
Which is not a lot. So it may have been, something that pushed them overboard, but it cannot be the only reason. Then, as we were talking before the show, me and Parvez, Jet Airways has had, a very good load factor for a while now. It's not like, the airline nobody was traveling the airline.
Correct, absolutely correct.
It has a tremendous amount of brand equity among and
complete monopoly in international sectors
in India. And when the airline sort of was temporarily shut down, so many people went on the social media, talking about the relationship they had with the airline.
Yes.
So all this tells you that, somewhere around the line, a lot of money was being made, but the airline was still not profitable.
So let's also look at this. 27th April 2019, the income tax officials conducted a survey at the premises of the airline.
Correct.
And they suspected that there were irregularities in the transactions between Jet Airways and Dubai-based group companies without specifying what those group companies were. The Enforcement Directorate, 14th May 2019, issued a summons to Jet Airways to understand the deal structure, one of the deal structures with Etihad. The Serious Fraud Investigation Office also conducted investigations, and they had reason to believe that there was something wrong, possible siphoning of money from the company. There's enough evidence here to merit an investigation, but no investigation has been ordered.
I was just mentioning to him that there's a DGCA site where all statistics are put, and the statistics are available for last 2-3 years. There is absolutely no parameter till March of this year which shows that Jet Air was doing anything worse or better than the other airlines. All the parameters of load factor, fuel consumption, manpower delivered completely matches with Indigo, Spice, Vistara. So then suddenly what happened? If they were all in the 88-90% load factors.
Yes.
And if you are running at 88, okay, another thing, if you were losing money.
Yes, let me just bring in Harshvardhan as well. Mr. Harshvardhan, here's the question. Do you think Jet Airways is all but dead right now, and can it at all be revived at this point?
Well, I think, even earlier I had maintained that it is almost an impossible task, and in last few weeks what has happened, I don't think there is any possibility of its revival, because principally there is nothing left in Jet Airways. If there was anything which was significantly important, basically the employees have gone, a large part of the fleet has gone, and now the management team has also dismantled. I mean, there is no asset base, so anybody would want to buy what? That is the first thing. The second thing is that I have also seen this Etihad bit. It is almost like saying that, we are in it, but then we have nothing to do with it. Basically, being a minority shareholder, you have to bring in a majority shareholder. If somebody has to bring in a majority shareholder, then what is the need of Etihad to do anything about it? And then Etihad has been silently monitoring and actively participating in banks and Jet Airways management over the last 1.5 years. If they had to do something, they would have done earlier, before it was a retrievable situation. So I don't think there is anything left, and it is the most surprising thing is that how the banks have allowed Naresh Goyal to go scot-free, because principally the promoter was the one who was responsible for all this mess, and even if it was a commercial transaction, they should have allowed him to be there. And in my opinion, if somebody could have found an investor or a buyer or found a solution, Naresh Goyal was definitely more competent than the bankers. But then it almost looks like an orchestrated exercise where he was allowed to go scot-free. While there has been a lot of references to Kingfisher and SpiceJet in the past, one being closed down, the other being revived. But I may like to tell that the Jet Airways is a very different experience from both these airlines. Both the airlines almost for a period of 1 year continued to struggle and make an attempt to survive. And the management team, even Vijay Mallya kept on pumping in his own money, and SpiceJet kept on trying to beg, borrow, steal, and somehow keep the operation running. It is only the last minute when they could not carry on any further, it closed down. Whereas Jet was almost like, it's closing down operations overnight, that was the situation. And before that, they made sure that their Naresh Goyal responsibility are taken over by the banks.
Yes.
So somewhere when we talk of investigation, we should also look at the role the bankers have deliberately played in allowing the airlines to close down and also allowing the promoter to go scot-free.
Yes, but one second, Vivek, before I come to you, I just want to bring in Mr. Sriram Khanna. Mr. Khanna, do you believe at this point that Naresh Goyal is being shielded, or is it just because of the election no one noticed?
See, I have no personal knowledge or even factual knowledge of who is shielding whom. But I fail to understand that if the Serious Frauds Office is looking into it, Income Tax Department is looking into it, the Enforcement Directorate is looking into it, they is obviously investigating certain things. And until they come out with their findings, You and I cannot make allegations. And secondly, on the face of it, I cannot think of a section in the Indian Penal Code where you can file an FIR against the promoter of a company for a financial failure in his company, unless you can show that there was fraud or siphoning of money or misapplication of money and he defrauded bankers, etc. But let's not forget that it's the banks themselves who decided that he has to go. I think that was not a wise decision, but the bankers who actually had to take the money from the company were the best judges, and I cannot fault their judgment. But having done that, the latest straw on the camel's back is the 4 senior management people abandoning ship. When 4 senior top management people abandon ship, it's a good sign to say, look, we tried to save it, we couldn't, so now we are saving ourselves. So I would say that things are going to get worse, and I don't know if they'll get better. Unless there is a major investor who comes and takes over and he can turn it around, and I bet only an aviation experienced company can come and turn it around. Because like somebody said, what is left of it? It's only the, you know, their logistical bases, their infrastructure, their people, the bulk of their employees are there, but top management is empty. So there somebody will have to come in with a top management team and install. But there is no one in sight. So like Kingfisher, I think we'll have to say goodbye to Jet Airways also. And let's not forget, the total debt of Air India is much bigger than Jet Airways. But why did Air India not fail? It's because the government of India is pumping money into Air India. Otherwise, Air India would have found itself in the same situation. So a government company is being saved. Why should someone expect a private company to run with government money is the question to ask. You came to run a business and make money, you made money, now you're losing money. So it's over.
But Vivek, you wanted to come in, and so the question really about the investigations, the Enforcement Directorate, Serious Fraud Investigating Office and the Income Tax Department, those investigations have gone cold. We haven't had any update from them for several months.
Yeah, I think that's going to start only after the the election results come in. That is very clear by now. I just wanted to sort of add to what Mr. Harshvardhan said. I think the only thing that's sort of left with Jet now is the brand value. And if anyone were to sort of buy it just for its brand value, then it would be running a totally new airline. I mean, it can still be called Jet, but that would not be the Jet that we used to know. So we need to sort of, make that distinction as well. So.
There's nothing left, like I said, all aircrafts have gone, all the main manpower has gone. It's like starting from zero. Now, to start an airline from zero, is the brand worth 8,500 to 9,000 crores? I don't think so. I don't think that's valued at that, because all the customers also gone. Now people are going to think 10 times before making a booking again on Jet, because they don't know whether it'll fly or not. I'm worried what kind of thousands of crores in refunds are left. See, I don't think anybody has the exact knowledge of the liability. Refunds liability, cancellation liability, liability to the leasing companies. And I'm telling you something, as soon as the Bombay courts open by 3rd of June, you will see a lot of winding up petitions being filed. A lot of people will file cases for recovery.
So we understand, of course, that the banks are owed 9,000 crore rupees.
Yes.
You were saying, and we talked about the last time about the fact that Indian Oil is owed money for the fuel, the Airports Authority would be owed money.
Airport Authority have started closing down Jet Air office and taking the space back. So what about the money? What is the exact outstanding of Airport Authority in the fuel?
20,000 crore or more.
Yeah.
20,000 crore or more.
So what is it? What is the brand worth? 20,000 crore?
No, it's not. So which is why I said,
there's nothing to sell to recover that money.
There's nothing to sell. How are the banks going to recover the money?
Vivek, is this then a write-off?
Absolutely.
You have reached a stage where the banks need to start writing off this loan. I mean, that's for sure. Yeah.
No, but
we don't even know for what it's worth whether or not it's classified as an NPA by SBI, because they're hoping to sell it, so they haven't classified it as an NPA.
If they classify, see, the thing is this, I mean, you can write off an asset at any point of time you deem it to be irrecoverable. So you don't have to wait for anything. So if, let's say, SBI deems this asset to be unrecoverable tomorrow morning, it can write off the entire
Yes. So here's the question. I want you to respond to what Mr. Khanna said. He said there's no law that that calls to prosecute someone who's made bad business decisions or caused a business to fail.
Yeah, I mean,
in this particular case, we don't know what it was that caused this airline to fail because there has been no investigation.
Exactly. So, I mean, so while the FIR is a different thing altogether, I mean, that still does not sort of, you know, leave around the fact that there has to be an investigation as to figure out.
Abhishek Mishra, from all of the things we learned through the Vijay Mallya experience, how is it that there has been no investigation whatsoever into the failure of Jet Airways? Does SBI, which is owned by the government of India, does SBI have collateral for the 9,000 crore rupees that is owed to it? Did Naresh Goyal sign any personal guarantees?
Faye, the thing is that State Bank of India, it is still in the process of finding new buyers for Jet. The lenders, they are as a consortium, they have received a bid as of today from a new bid from Etihad. So there are many global corporations which are trying to bid for Jet. So let us not, you know, be in haste. See, it is purely a matter between the lenders and the company, and we should also understand the pain of the employees. Hence, it is very important that, you know, if by God's grace a new buyer can come in, and SBI is trying for that, but it is purely a commercial issue between the lenders, the company involved, and the, you know, to end the stake of the employee should be taken care of. I think there is not much one should read into it. The SBI is doing its work. There are proposals
That's
being
excellent.
accepted.
Abhishek Mishra, why was Kingfisher and Vijay Mallya not a matter of you know, commercials between the bank, between the lender and the airline and the employees? Why did the government get so heavily involved when it came to Vijay Mallya?
Recovering money.
You have to understand, Faye, let us not confuse the two issues. In this particular issue, the primary lender, State Bank of India, still has confidence that no, a new buyer will come in and their loans will be cleared off. See, as you are responsible
let's assume that Mr. Mishra, that would be great if the buyer comes and pays off the loan. Let's start at a step second to that. Suppose no buyer comes. Suppose there is no investor and it's going to close down. Then what strategy has the government of India, State Bank of India have to recover the money? You go to farmers' places, you take away their tractors, you take away their land. Farmer suicides are occurring because of 80% suicides occurring by farmers who taken loan from the banks, not money lenders, mind you. So if you are so aggressive in recovering small farmers' money,
Mr. Damania,
yes,
Mr. Damania,
yes,
Mr. Damania,
yes,
don't raise speculations, Mr. Damania.
No,
today the SBI-led consortium has said that it has received bids. No, let me reply. Mr. Damania, let me reply politely. Faye, let me speak facts, please. I don't want to get into a shouting debate.
Okay, one second. Okay, you were talking about the bids.
Let me complete.
Abhishek Mishra,
Mr.
yes,
Damania,
talk about the bids.
Please.
Tell us about the bids.
Yeah. So State Bank today has said in a PTI statement, the SBI-led consortium has said that it has received bids from Etihad Airways and many other parties we don't want to disclose. Now you have to understand. Now, it does not work how Mr. Damania thinks. If it will not happen, what will happen? A practical commercial transaction where 9,000 crores are involved, SBI has to take all steps possible as a responsible PSU, as a bank, to take back the money. So you have to understand that
okay,
SBI
Mr. Mishra,
is
let's respond to your statement. Okay, Mr. Mishra.
All right. So how can we think it will not receive?
Okay, all right. First of all, if you're saying SBI has to take all steps responsibly to recover the money, SBI was not being responsible when they lent the money to begin with, because they were obviously lending the money to an airline that was in no position to pay back. Point one. Point number two, they didn't lend all 9,000 crore rupees in one night. They lent that 9,000 crore rupees over a period of time, restructured it over a period of time, and allowed it to get this bad. We should question SBI's responsibility on two counts. Count number 3 on SBI's responsibility.
Yes.
Does it have collateral for the money that it lent? Perhaps not, which is why it's struggling to find a buyer. Now, point number 4, you want to talk about bidders. From what we understand, Etihad Group has said that it's interested, but it is not interested to take on the whole mess, nothing more than what it already owns. The Adi Group from London, although we don't know what their level of interest is, and the Darwin Group from Andheri East. And I just want to show you, and we went and looked up the Darwin Group that wants to put in 14,000 crore rupees into Jet Airways. Can we just run visuals? There you are. This is for your benefit, Mr. Mishra. You should look at the screen. This is one of the companies that has bid for the airline. This is what their office looks like. They're going to put in 14,000 crore rupees and completely buy out all of the debt and pay back SBI. If I were SBI, I would be deeply concerned about this bid. So I don't know what bids SBI is so confident about. If you know something, you should tell us.
Faye. Yeah, Faye. See, you are editor-in-chief of a very prominent television channel, and hence you must understand, as a concerned, all citizens must understand, the primary thing is that the SBI gets back its money. Otherwise, it's a purely commercial transaction between a commercial jet entity, Jet Airways, and some commercial party which wants to buy it. Only reason why the citizens are involved is, and why we should all be worried is, SBI, the government money, should come back to the citizens of India. It's not going to, it's not become bankrupt. Hence, SBI is taking efforts to get back its money. Now, who is the bidder?
SBI give the money to begin with?
You are responsible. Who is going to buy?
Why did SBI give the money to begin with?
Yeah.
What due diligence was being done before these loans were handed out?
No, SBI.
What is the personal guarantee or the collateral that was given for this loan?
I am not.
Don't pay your auto loan for 2 months and they'll come and take your scooter back. You know that? What is SBI doing? 9,000 crore rupees. And how do we not compare this with Kingfisher? This is exactly the same thing. Mr. Harshvardhan wants to respond. Mr. Harshvardhan, go ahead.
You see, I want to draw the attention of the viewers to the fact that, you know, we had a small client who wanted to start a regional airlines with a aircraft worth about $1.5 million. When he approached the banks, firstly the banks asked for 25% cash deposit from his side. Then they wanted 150% of securities, and they wanted a personal guarantee and offered a rate which was 2% higher than the normal rates. Ultimately, the man walked out. There was another client who was doing transactions, and he had pledged assets worth 200% with the bank. And on first default, he was not only sent a legal notice by the banks, but also sent a charge to vacate his personal guarantees. So, you know, in one case you can be so brutal, and another case you are so liberal. You see, somewhere the banks have to explain.
Absolutely. Somewhere the banks,
Mr. Harshvardhan, after Kingfisher Airlines, you and I are both aware, banks have stopped entertaining any financing of aviation sector. If the banks have not financed
it is on the negative list, you know, it is on the negative list.
If it's a negative list and Kingfisher wound up in 2010, 2011.
Mr. Damania wants to put the lives of 22,000 employees in peril.
Keep supporting
when
or they could
SBI
have
is trying to get Jet afloat, why do you want to spoil the lives of the employees?
Kept reducing your
Mr. Damania, you want bankruptcy to occur. People don't want it to occur. SBI is trying.
Okay, one second. No, 1 second. Abhishek Mishra, let me just reiterate. If you speak over the other guest, nobody can understand either of you. It defeats the entire purpose of the conversation. You must allow the guest to finish speaking before you interrupt or before you offer your point of view. Now, do you have a point of view? Please put it forward.
Point of view is, Mr. Damania wants that Jet Airways should be treated as a bankrupt company like Kingfisher, and maybe what pressure he drives, I don't know. Faye, you must be concerned that Jet should somehow stay afloat. SBI is trying for the 22,000 employees whose families are dependent. So if Jet stays afloat and they are trying, employees are saying every day, please, we'll take lesser salaries, keep Jet afloat, buy a buyer. So SBI is saving those employees. Mr. Damania wants Jet to be bankrupt like Kingfisher. What joy he will get, I don't know.
All right, okay,
but
okay. So we will try and figure out the deep dark motives of Parvez Damania also in a little while. But first, let me tell you what I am concerned about. I'm concerned about the fact that these employees that you are referring to went to the police station 5 weeks ago to file a complaint for the fact that they weren't being paid. That complaint has not been registered as an FIR even today. The police has not had any time in the last 5 weeks to do a preliminary investigation on the matter and register an FIR, I see a larger hand in that, and that is my concern. Second point, you're talking about SBI keeping this airline afloat. 4 CEO, CFO, head of HR have quit yesterday. You don't have any CXOs in the company. How are you keeping it afloat? Everyone who owned those aircrafts have been repossessed. The Airports Authority of India have taken back all of the space that was occupied, the slots, the parking slots, everything is gone. There is nothing to sell, Mr. Mishra. If SBI is optimistic, then that optimism is misplaced, and that should be the concern. I'll tell you what the concern is. SBI is run on my money. That's taxpayer money. And if you're telling me the management of SBI still thinks they can revive this airline for whatever it's worth, then I think I should be worried about my money. That should also be your concern. That should be the finance ministry's concern. But hey, there's an election on. Who cares for 9,000 crore rupees, right? Let's pay attention to the election instead. Vivek, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just wanted to take ahead Mr. Mishra's point a little. So he just made a point that this is a commercial transaction. Okay. Now, if it is a commercial transaction, then the bank should be batting for the depositors and not the employees. Correct. Okay. Because ultimately, it's the depositors' money which is being lent, and that has to be lent safely. The second point I wanted to make is, and this is a general point, has got nothing to do with Jet Airways, but is relevant here. In the last, actually between 2014-15 and 2017-18, the public sector banks have managed to recover only 14% of the loans that they have written off. So the larger point here is that, public sector banks basically suck at recovering loans. And which is Jet Airways here is a clear example of, how a situation has been allowed to go from, bad to worse. And now, nobody has any idea as to how to go about it. The third point I wanted to make is, about this Dublin group. What was it? Darwin group. Sorry, not Dublin group. So this Darwin group is run out of one room somewhere in Chandivali in Andheri East. And, we are trying to sell an airline here, not a local kirana shop. So I'm really not sure as to how is SBI even entertaining such a non-serious bid. I mean, tomorrow I want to sort of, get some space in the media. I mean, I approach you and I tell you, I'm in the process of buying Jet Airways. I mean, so will you take me seriously? So I mean, there are too many things here which really are bizarre, to say the least.
Well, and the argument of Etihad and Adi Group
I'd like to add something here.
Yes. Vivek, do you think any of these bidders are serious? Do you think there is a possibility that SBI might keep the airline afloat?
No, I don't think any of these people are saying. What is Etihad saying? Etihad saying our exposure will be 1,500 crore. We need a majority partner. If there was a majority partner who was seriously interested, they would appear on day one. This is, I think, just keeping on passing the ball till the election, till the results, and then raise your hands up, the new government come, pass it to the new government, take it. That's it.
Sriram Khanna. Mr. Khanna, please go ahead.
Yeah, I am a little lost here.
Yes.
I have studied law. That includes the Criminal Procedure Code, the Indian Penal Code, the Contract Act. I cannot think of an offence that if a company doesn't pay its employee's salary, there is some criminal offence made. I think this whole transaction, unless some criminality can be shown, no police official can file an FIR, because if FIR requires a cognizable criminal offence. Of course, in the case of Vijay Mallya, it was alleged that he had given false documents to the lenders, he had diverted money, so there was criminality. And then he absconded on top of that. In this case, Mr. Naresh Goyal is sitting in Mumbai, and the banks themselves have asked him to quit
Have we got all the statutory
Let him finish. Yes, Mr. Khanna, please finish.
So it's actually the lenders have taken responsibility after asking the promoter to quit. They must have thought out something. If they sort out something and they can't pull it off, then ultimately, they'll have to do what the others are doing, and that is take a haircut. And how much haircut they will take will depend on what they can recover.
What I don't understand is SBI is taking a haircut.
But I think,
No, Mr. Khanna, here's my problem here. You've studied law, so someone on the panel should help me understand. SBI is going to take a haircut. Airports Authority of India is taking a haircut. Indian Oil is taking a haircut. Employees are taking a haircut. Bank depositors are taking. Everybody except Naresh Goyal is taking a haircut. Naresh Goyal is growing out his hair at this point because nobody is holding him accountable. Now, so Vivek, here's the question. It's a valid question that Mr. Khanna is asking. Where is the criminality? So why are we having this conversation if there's no sign of criminality?
No, I mean,
I'd like to add here.
Yeah, please.
I'd like to add here under the.
Yes, Mr. Khanna.
See, under the company law, Naresh Goyal is responsible to the extent of his shareholding. So whatever equity he has got, those shares are his liability. He'll have to meet that. So banks are going to take over his shares. That's his entire liability. You can't hold him responsible for more than his shares unless you can show criminality and send him to jail.
Vivek?
Yeah, I mean, fair point. I mean, I agree with him there. But, you know, having said that, if you look at, you know, the books of Jet Airways, I mean, a very basic check tells you that things are not really right over there. So, I mean, given that, you know, that needs to be looked into. That needs to be looked into. I mean, that is for sure.
So, when you say the books of Jet Airways, you basically say that this was an airline who, until a year ago, was actually preparing to bid for Air India. When the government opened up bids for Air India, it wanted to buy Air India or buy stake in Air India. It was running full packed aircrafts. It was running every sector in the country.
Monopoly over international sectors.
Monopoly over the international sector, full fare. And it had a dedicated, loyal customer. And it was a customer base. It was 25 years old, which means that all of the initial debt that needed to, or the initial amortized costs had already been paid off.
Correct.
There is no evidence or reason to suggest that this airline will go from there to where it is right now in 1 year, unless something went horribly wrong.
Yeah, I mean, so which is what, you know, I have been looking at the numbers and I can't find anything which has sort of changed over the years. I mean, as I said, in fact, the interesting thing is that their interest expense as a part of their expenditure actually has come down over the years. So, I mean, they were doing better on that front as well. So, I don't know. I mean, so a basic look at the numbers seems to suggest that you know, I mean,
there was foul play.
Something is wrong. Some investigation needs to be done.
And no one's ordered
Faye, can I come in, Faye?
Yes, there's also another question that has popped up from one of our US. One second, I'll come to you. There, which is basically, are the employees entitled to any sort of compensation, or in a situation like this, should employees just move on?
Actually, you know, I mean, this is a point I've been making over and over again in my writings. You know, when you work for the private sector, you need to take into account the fact that you may lose your job someday. And not because you did something wrong, but because, you know, people who are supposed to run the company did not run it well enough. So that is a risk we all take when we take on a private sector job. You know, otherwise the best thing to do is to work for Air India, where you know for sure that the taxpayer money will keep it running over and over again. So,
no, but when
so it's far better to be an Air India employee than to be a taxpayer at this point.
No, but when is somebody going to tell these poor employees that now the company is closed and you're not going to get salaries? Because this is a never-ending story.
I mean, in fact, no CEO, no CFO. Is it closed? It's
no CEO, no CFO, no company secretary. Nobody's there.
In fact, the other point I wanted to make is, you know, the government should be protecting the aviation sector and not one particular company. Okay.
Yes.
And when I say that, what that basically means is that, and this is true about any sector, not just the aviation sector, you need to let a company fail quickly and move on, and not let that drag on and on as has been happening with Jet Airways. Because when the things drag on, you know, everyone sort of keeps hoping that things will improve.
I agree to that.
And you know, and there's a bigger mess.
So this whole argument that SBI is trying to keep this thing alive for as long as it can, you believe is a bad idea?
Why did SBI first of all make that statement that they were going to pay 1,500 crores, put up the money, we are going to save the airline, it's an excellent airline?
We have an insolvency and bankruptcy court.
I've been waiting for a very long time. Let me come in.
And, you know, when the IBC is in place and when banks are going that way, and you've had transactions like, you know, if you look at Worsens Steel, which owed the public sector banks around 56,000 crore and around 35,000 crore was recovered. So I really don't know as to what was the idea.
Or also why SBI didn't move to recover its money earlier, and why waited?
I mean, if there was a problem, it's not like the problem sort of started on
overnight.
the
No, why this
Let me
taking over
also-
equity, and now till today nobody is clear whether the loan was converted to equity or not. Is the equity still there?
Yeah.
Even the day they took over equity, it was 250
So
rupees. Now it's
basically,
120 bucks.
is SBI the owner of Jet Airways, or does it owe, or does Jet Airways owe money to SBI?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody's answering that question.
In fact, on the 22nd of April, as recently as the 22nd of April, the CEO, Vinay Dubey, actually said Jet is confident of finding new investors. We're confident that we will get the
No, but
airline
see,
back in the
that's the
sky.
thing. I mean, when you are a CEO of an enterprise that is dying, and you need to sell it, the least you need to do is sound confident in the
Yes.
media. I mean, if you're not even confident in the media,
Then
who's
nobody will
gonna
buy.
buy?
All right, one
Chairman also
second.
said the same
Abhishek has
thing.
been wanting to come in for a while. Abhishek, go ahead.
Yeah, Faye, I'm very much shocked by one thing. You just now ran a clipping about that company called the Darwin Group, and your people spoke against it. I don't even know about Darwin Group. I have nothing to do. But what I read in that PTI statement, which has been given to me, in PTI statement, it is that the SBI Capital officials have sat with Darwin Group. Darwin Group has investment across sectors, oil, glass, hospitality, amounted to around 14,000 crores. And SBI Capital, which is a serious, proper wing of SBI. And PTI is
This is
PTI
why
is
we are
giving out this
concerned about
statement.
SBI and
That
Mr. Mishra.
company is worth 40,000 crores. So
This is why we are concerned about SBI.
Sir,
This is why we should
I
all be
have
worried
a
about
very- I have
SBI.
a very
Statement,
simple
so
question.
just
I have a
do not-
very
just-
simple question. If the group was a 14,000 crore group, wouldn't we have heard about it? I mean, it's not like your local Kirana shop.
14,000 crore they want to invest. Means it has to be a 50,000 crore group, so they won't
PTI,
invest.
I don't know.
If you
I'm saying PTI. Please, Faye D'Souza is a big journalist. She can ask PTI.
No, I can't ask
PTI, she can
PTI.
ask PTI. I
is
don't
a
know.
news,
PTI has given this. I don't
news
know.
wire. PTI has carried the news. Why will I ask
Just
PTI?
because PTI has published something
I know,
doesn't,
but you
doesn't
can
mean
ask
we stop
PTI why
using
there
our
is
No
Right.
brains.
balance
You
sheet,
can ask
nothing,
PTI.
nothing on the site. It says it's into everything possible.
It also says that it owns an airline.
Yeah,
I've never
no,
heard of-
airline,
But SBI
shipping,
Capital is
mining,
having meetings.
movies, telecommunication, infrastructure.
Actually, I
media.
want to ask Harshvardhan this question. Mr. Harshvardhan, SBI is sitting down with this company called Darwin. This company claims to be also flying internationally at this point. The website is extremely dodgy. The office is dodgy. None of it actually makes sense. Is it that easy to sell an airline to a company like this that has no experience and no expertise? Or is SBI that desperate? So it can only be one of the two things. Either SBI is desperate or SBI doesn't know what it's doing. Which of the two do you think it is?
Well, I think SBI seems to be now realizing that they have put their foot into the mouth and they are trying to somehow salvage it. And when any non-serious or serious offer is made, they start jumping at it, hoping against hope that something will come out. So, they don't want to pre-censor any option. And it's almost, it's a kind of a desperate situation. Even a promoter does it that, whenever there is such situation, a lot of these non-serious players come in. But coming to this particular group, though I don't know them personally, but I have seen a lot of these kind of proposals which keep floating around and they keep claiming. Claiming has no requirement. Proving is the one. So, before they realize that there are a serious promoter, it's like one of those talks, and just on the basis of it they start making press statements. When it's almost now they are trying to buy Jet Airways.
No.
Last 25 years I keep seeing people coming out with an airlines, and if everybody who has been claiming and getting photographs in media for starting an airlines, by now we would have had something like 20,000 aircraft flying in this country. So, because you get published and the media take cognizance of it, people start making claims about it, and in each case, government organization also start entertaining them, hoping that, something will emerge out of it. I think this is one of those cases.
Vivek, explain to our audience what this means when we say SBI is now meeting with unsolicited bidders. What does that mean?
In the sense that, these are bidders who have approached SBI and not the other way around. I mean, it's not, they're not responding to something, but they have approached.
So just anybody off the street right now can approach SBI
No,
with
I
a
mean,
bid?
I'm sure it's not as easy as that, but.
Yeah, but these people look like anybody on the street.
So, all right. So this is where we are at this point, and I just want a quick answer from I guess in the studio at least. Do you believe that there has to be a full forensic investigation into Jet Airways, the books, the transactions, the money?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure about that because, I mean, having looked at the books and having looked at the past experience of how public sector banks write off loans, it is a necessity. In fact,
absolutely, absolutely. I think we've been saying this on this program over and over again. It has to be studied, and when the banks knew that this airline is on a weak wicket, when they burnt fingers with Kingfisher, they should have been more careful. I'm sure they have taken guarantees. I'm sure Naresh's personal assets are mortgaged to the bank or given to the bank. And the banks, I think they should start moving now. It's too late in the day. Now
they're obviously not moving for a reason.
This Darwin-Marvin thing is all fake. This is a waste of time.
So here's the question. So this is what you were saying. You said that the banks have access to the
worry should be the employees. Faye.
You just said employees need to look after themselves.
Employees should be a worry.
Employees
the 22,000 employees, that is our primary worry.
That matter have quit.
No, the employees are still there. There are still employees. Who told you, Faye?
okay, so I mean, you
the
know,
employees are still there.
Either it is a
worry
commercial
about
transaction,
them, and they want Jet to be afloat.
Ma'am, okay. Either it is a commercial transaction or it is not a commercial
Humanitarian transaction.
If it is a commercial transaction, then the depositors need to be protected. The employees are not the responsibility of the bank. If it is a humanitarian transaction, then that's a different thing altogether.
Then you have to save every private company that has ever been failed.
A 10 will show.
State Bank should get back
BSNL is firing employees
State
right
Bank of India. 1 second, Mr. Damania.
Don't shout.
1 Mr.
Mr. Mishra,
Damania.
not that kind of show. Calm down. Nobody's shouting. Only you are shouting. Why are you shouting?
No, ask him to speak.
Okay.
State Bank of India must recover its money back. That is a primary as citizens.
You've said that.
And then it's a commercial transaction between who buys and what happens. And as humanitarian, we must be worried about the employees. That's what Mr. Kala was
all
saying.
of it at the same time.
As humans, we must worry about employees, and as citizens, about bank getting back its money. Yeah.
No, I mean, so if, you know, the humanitarian angle comes in, then that worries me a lot because then we'll have to save every company which is going down the
But this humanitarian angle is obviously
not a bank's
humbug.
responsibility.
Because it's bunkum. Because nothing has been done for these employees after that.
It can be a responsibility of the
No,
government.
so, and then
It
why?
cannot
What
be a
happened to the
responsibility of the bank.
humanitarian angle when the Kingfisher employees were crying for help and there were people committing suicide? What happened then?
Nothing.
BSNL is letting go of people. People have been let go of from the private sector, and private sector companies have folded across the country for decades now. This would, by that argument, you have to save them all, which you can't because it's a capitalist economy. And the blame here, I believe, lies solely on the plate of SBI. If you have access to the bankruptcy law, which the government is very proud of, why did you wait so long? What guarantees did you take? What guarantees did you take when you handed out these loans? And when you saw that you currently are in a position where this company is not going to pay back, why didn't you take action earlier? Why did you wait and then wait some more? Now you have an airline with no aircrafts, with no space in the airport, with no parking bays, with no employees, no CEO, no CFO, just the loans. Who's going to come in to buy a big bundle of loans? Unfortunately, even if all of this were to have worked out and the money suddenly magically appears, the last, very, very last people who will see any of that money are the employees. So the employees at this point really, like we've learned in the past, need to look after themselves. That's the unfortunate truth. But we have to ask the bigger question of who's shielding Naresh Goyal. Why hasn't there been a forensic investigation into where the money went and how such a successful airline went bust overnight? Someone needs to look into that, and more people need to be asking questions. Thanks for watching.